Well, here we are, episode 68.
Yes, sir.
And why aren't you wearing something green?
Because I'm Italian.
Unbelievable.
It's blue or nothing, or blue and black.
Terrible, terrible, terrible person.
Yeah, I
So
know.
what do we got on the agenda tonight?
All right, so here's what we got. So stay tuned because we got about 4 different topics we're going to hit you with tonight. And, of course, the recent developments of Kharg Island and what happened there. We got some specifics about, what we hit, what we didn't hit. So stay tuned for that. We also have Donald and Melania Trump. Are marriage on the rocks? We don't know, but we got some information you might be interested in. It's pretty cool. We'll talk about a mother who lost her husband, Kouri Richins.
Right.
And interesting story there. So stay tuned. And then lastly, this Minnesota fraud that's been going on forever.
Yeah.
We had a judge pretty much do something very surprising. So we'll have to tell you about that too. So that's what we got so far tonight. Let me roll that great intro that we got.
That great
Here you go.
bean footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the most recent developments in the Iran war is this Kharg Island. I was there about last month. We vacationed there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I hope you brought the military.
But you want to know something? Trump talked about this in 1988 about Kharg Island and how that's got to, he talked about taking down the regime in Iran. He said we should do that. He talked about this in
What is
'88.
this, like an Oprah show or something?
No, I'm just saying there are video out there of him saying that,
Okay,
and he specified Kharg Island. He said
Wow.
that's one place that's got to go.
That's because they're import and export.
Oh,
states
yeah.
through there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Occurred on March 13th, late Friday into Saturday, part of the ongoing U.S.-Iranian conflict. Now in its third week,
Yep.
here's a summary of the key updates based on the reports from U.S. Central Command. U.S. forces carried out a large-scale precision strike on Kharg Island. Now, if you see the map of Iran, you could look, if you zoom in like on Google Maps or
I'll
something,
put
you
it
can
up
see
here
it.
like we had last
Yeah,
week.
it's on the left side of on the western part of the country.
It's a
describe-
tiny little thing compared to
Yeah,
Iran, too.
it's I think
really-
half the size of Jersey, not even.
Yeah.
I mean, Manhattan Island or something.
Right.
Described President Trump as one of the most powerful bombing raids in history of the Middle East. Targets included 90 Iranian military sites, such as naval mine storage facilities, missile storage bunkers, air defense systems, and airport facilities, and radar installations.
And this is all on the island.
All on the island.
Okay.
Yeah. But he did not bomb there's a lot of oil
Flows
that's
through
there.
there,
The big tank, those big, when you go on the turnpike, you can see them, big oil tanks. He didn't bother with them. And I thought that was probably a good idea.
So he's trying to avoid damaging their infrastructure of oil, so to
Right.
speak.
In case, well, if you look at it, in case this whole thing winds down and we really win and we go in there, we need that for the rest of the world, not just for us.
Right, yeah, of course, because we only get, how much oil? 5%?
We don't even get. I don't think we get a lot of. We don't get that much out. But and I know that question comes up. Why are we higher in price?
I explained
Like you
last week.
explained it,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And Bill O'Reilly talked about it today. Why it's high? It's the same thing what you said. The strikes deliberately avoided damaging the island's oil infrastructure, which is Iran's primary oil export hub, handling 90% of its crude exports and vital to its economy. SETCAM released footage showing the operation confirming military targets were hit while preserving oil facilities. Trump stated the U.S. had totally obliterated every military target on the island, but spared oil assets for reasons of decency.
Well, I don't know how far you can use that word because they bombed the shit out of everything.
Yeah,
But
they did.
that is part of their, to rebuild. They're going to need that oil, that money, selling that oil.
They
and
are.
It's going to help.
But
them
Trump
do
did
that.
say that if they don't surrender soon, he might be hitting those things.
Yeah, I know, but
I don't
that's
think
not
that's a good
just
idea.
no, because it's not hurting just Iran. It's
hurting the whole
actually
world.
it's hurting everybody but Iran.
Yeah.
Think about it. China specifically, Russia,
Yeah.
and those are not close allies.
No.
And do we really want to mess around that much with
Right.
those guys? I mean, Japan's an ally, but and they get a lot of oil. I think 90% they get through here.
Well, this is Trump's way of just getting back because they interfered with the shipping through the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
So always get that name wrong.
This is the big problem right now. This is where we are, right? So they don't have much to shoot at us anymore or other countries,
Right.
but now they're blocking oil exports through there. And I was at breakfast this morning with a couple of guys, and there's a gas station you can see through the window of the diner, and we're sitting there. It's $3.79. We're talking, and $3.99.
Did it really? It went up that quick? Well, when I worked at the
sitting there.
dealership, when I worked at Flemington BMW, we had a gas station that's where we filled up our cars and stuff. And there was a gas, and I remember sitting there looking at it. This is going back about 5-6 years ago, and it was going up. And back then it was like 305, and then it went to 310, and by the end of the day it was 312. I said from 305 to 312
Right.
in a matter of 7 hours.
Now, in the old days, it wouldn't go up that quick because they had to use the big stick with the
Yes.
plastic
No,
numbers.
now they just push a button, they
Push a
dial it
button,
in.
change it.
Yeah.
This is easy. We'll raise the price tomorrow. Again.
Yeah.
So that is that's the biggest problem we have right now. Now he reached out to NATO
Yep.
and reached out to countries who rely on this oil, like Japan,
Yes.
and they said this is your problem.
Well, let me just give you a little update because I did a little update on that.
Okay.
The countries that said no, completely no, we don't want to get involved: EU,
Oh, really?
Germany, Australia, and Italy. They said no.
Okay.
And you're Italian.
Yeah. Figures.
Maybes.
They're gonna charge me more for
Now,
gas.
this was as of about 4 o'clock today.
Okay.
Maybes that might do it is the UK,
Okay. That's
France, Canada,
good.
Japan, and South
Canada.
Korea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, none. Just
Just
hold
flat
yes.
out. Yeah.
So anyway, these maybe countries, these 5 countries, UK, France, Canada, South Korea, and Japan, they might help. According to this, at 4 o'clock, EU, Germany, Italy, and Australia said, no way, we're not getting involved. It's your baby, basically. But they don't, Trump, he kind of said this just to see what they would say, I think.
Yeah.
Because he's
he's-
really beating them up
yeah,
now. Oh,
he's
okay,
testing
so
them.
that's how you feel. Okay.
It's a one-way street, he said.
We
Today.
could do it ourselves, but if, I just
Yeah.
figured I ask you,
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah, that we always help them. How many billions
do.
we spend protecting them?
I know.
So it'd be nice if they reciprocated a little
Yep.
bit. Now, another thing I found out as of this morning, the Israeli Prime Minister said that Khomeini's kid is dead, and a few others they took out.
Now, they also reported, you're talking about the kid that
kid with the
supposedly
one
has
leg.
that he was gay.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Can you imagine?
I
can't be-
always thought
Yeah.
in Iran, if you said that
Yes.
you were a homosexual or a
They'll kill you.
lesbian, they throw you off a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe that's why I heard a report that he was ousted from the. They're worth, that family is worth like $80 million, $100 million or something like that.
And he wasn't part of his father's will or something.
Supposedly he was written off. Now maybe that's the reason. It could have been that.
Sure. Yeah.
And they probably said, well, he's the son. Let's not kill him. But let's oust him.
And we think about the LGBT community, right? And I'm going to say something a little bit nice here if I can. They're not treated as in most. Now people say the opposite. They're treated rotten. They're treated this. They're not. I got a couple of neighbors that are great guys. They really are. They're nice people.
Yeah.
We don't hang them or we don't kill them because they're gay.
No.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we accept that here. And can you imagine living in
Can
Iran?
you imagine if they lived there?
That's my point.
It's
so they
unbelievable.
bitch
They
and
would-
moan.
It's crazy.
No, you're right. They bitch and moan about living in the U.S. Go there and see if you can have that lifestyle. 'Cause
Right.
You can't.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, or you're in the mob. You can't have it there either.
Yeah.
No, so I heard that he's taken out. And a couple other guys were taken out
Today, two
today,
guys.
this morning.
One of them, I have him here. One of them was supposedly in charge. I don't know his name, but one of them was in charge of all the protesters getting killed. I found the 2 people in Iran that were killed just recently, today or yesterday, actually. Ali Laranjina. Laranjina. That's what it says. Laranjini. Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, and General Golham Raza Soleimani, the head of the Revolutionary Guard, all volunteer Baja force, were eliminated last night. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said. Laranjani was considered one of the most powerful figures in the country since Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini was killed in an airstrike on the first day of the war. So this guy was really high up there.
Okay.
But these 2 guys, especially the Golem Raza Soleimani, was the guy that was orchestrating the killing of all the protesters. And he was just out walking the other day. They say he's a real hardliner.
Oh, yeah.
And he was out walking on the streets and putting down the U.S. and talking how bad we were. And he was shaking people's hands and everything.
Right.
Well, he's gone.
He's gone, and we couldn't do nothing about it.
We ran Raza last week, giving a speech that he's going to accept the role, but I haven't heard anything about him stepping in or whatever's happening there.
Right.
So, so part 2 of this, but I want to go back and forth with you on this one as you dig up stuff. But there were 4 instances in the U.S.
Yeah.
And they're not sleeper cells. They are single radical Islamic people that are doing this stuff. So on March 1st, and we're just bringing it to your attention because, be cautious, be out there and keep an eye on what's going on. But March 1st in Austin, Texas, we had Buford's Bar, 6th Street shooting. This Naigian, I'm terrible with names, 53 years old, naturalized U.S. citizen, officially from Senegal. He opened fire at a downtown bar and beer garden during early morning hours, killing 3, including himself, after police engaged him, wounding 14, some still critical. And then when they arrested him, when they picked him up, he had a hoodie that said "Property of Allah" and a T-shirt featuring the Iranian flag. So these are, the single radical people that are trying to, attack us in the U.S. So we got to be careful.
Yep.
And then we had one. You got one there?
Well, in New York City,
Yeah.
Gracie Mansion. Evidently, right outside the Gracie Mansion is where the mayor stays in New York City. He wasn't there, and his wife, but there were people outside that were protesting the mayor. Now, the mayor is Muslim. I'm sure you know that. You heard everything about it on the news. Mm-hmm. He was Muslim. The people outside were protesting against his policies for New York. 2 kids, you want to call them kids, 18 and 19 years old. Kids. They made a homemade bomb with, nails and screws and everything packed in it. Well, they came running up to the crowd, and they threw the bombs into the crowd, and they took off. And they had one officer. Do you see that one officer jumping over the fence?
To go get him. Ran right into trouble.
Right into trouble, and arrested them. The bombs, luckily, did not go off.
Right.
So
they said if they did, be worse than the Boston Marathon.
But did you hear what the mayor said? The mayor says there were people outside. They were white supremacists protesting against me. Why would he have to say they're not white? They were just complaining about what he's doing in the city.
Right.
He's
playing down Emar Ballot and Abraham Kalyomi, which are both from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And they drove in. Again.
Yeah, they're from Bucks County.
They're tied to Islamic extremists, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah.
So, all right, there were white people protesting outside against you, whatever you want to call it. But that's not what the story's about.
Right.
Then on March 12th, Norfolk, Virginia.
Mohammed Baylor Jallah.
36. Former Armor National Guard member. Right? He was a Guard member in the U.S.
Yep, naturalized citizen from Sierra Leone.
Entered the ROTC classroom, shouted Allah Akbar, and opened fire, killing 1, an instructor, and critically wounded 2 others. He was subdued and killed by the ROTC unit. Students, the own students did it.
Yeah.
He was convicted in 2016 for providing material support to ISIS, and here he is on the streets again.
Yes.
So the federal FBI is now classifying that as terrorism, and again, Islamic extremists, ISIS ties.
Then in March 12th, West Bloomfield, Michigan, at a synagogue, the perpetrator, Amin Mohammed Ghazali, Lebanese background, drove an explosive-laden vehicle into the synagogue with 140 preschool children inside. Family members, brothers reported killed the Israeli strikes on Lebanon Hezbollah targets. Now, this guy, evidently, his brother, I think we talked about this at dinner or something.
Yeah.
His brother was like a colonel or something
In the army.
in the Iran army. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was his father, but you were right. It's his
his
brother.
brother.
Maybe he did this because of trying to get back to, but it didn't. It didn't. It seemed like it didn't really.
No, it had a lot of injuries, but there was nobody,
was nobody
no
killed,
mass
yeah.
casualties or anything like that. So,
Attacks disrupted. Injuries reported, but no mass casualties. Details and initial accounts. Treated as terrorism.
Yeah.
Motivated by anti-Israel / anti-U.S. sentiment tied to regional conflict in the area.
So we have all these individuals that are getting radicalized, and
In
they're-
Congress, the Dems don't want to fund ICE.
right, yeah. That Homeland Security, we need it more than ever.
Well, today there was a break on that, right? So a little bit of a break. There was some Dems that they're starting to turn, and they're starting to, not a lot, but you could see the tide is turning a little bit. I think they're getting a lot of slack because of the long lines at TSA.
Think about these people that just have a job. It's their job, and they're not getting paid.
I know.
So they're not showing up. So they're quitting. They don't care. What are they going to do? Work for nothing? So hopefully they're going to bend a little bit. Fetterman made a few speeches trying to get more people to, get this through and do all that.
Boy, he's really turned around, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
it makes sense.
Even when 2-3 years ago, when he had the stroke or something like that,
Yeah.
he didn't. We didn't really know his views and everything. The way he's talking and the things he's saying, I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden he came out and he says, "Now I'm an independent or I'm a Republican."
Oh yeah,
Because saw an interview with him, and he was saying that his whole family, way back, he says they were all Republicans. Everybody was. I was the only one that wasn't.
well, I think he's honestly, and he's not. He doesn't have Trump deranged syndrome. That's number one. Right. So we know TDS is anything and everything he does is wrong. So he doesn't think that way. He's thinking about the people, and he said, "I would never put my party ahead of the people of the United States." So that's what he's doing. So now Bill and I are both hoping this war now starts to wind down, and we get somebody that's in power that will talk to us,
Well,
get this thing going.
maybe
Yeah, Ravi, that we talked about last week. Yeah, watch last week's episode, whatever his name was.
we need an interpreter here.
Yeah, well, you do better at the names than I do. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But so we need somebody that's going to say, okay, we're going to sit and talk. Let's get this, going here.
Right.
And I'm not a radical person that you got to worry about. So
Right. Well, it'll bring down the gas, thank God, and then it'll bring the gas goes down. Everything else is going to kind of fall
and
like
I hope
dominoes.
it follows quickly. Because,
I mean, if this happens, if this works out great, and they're defeated, and people come out, they need an uprising. If the protesters know that he's gone,
right, they might come out.
They might come out and
I hope so.
yeah. I mean that might that would be great.
Test it with some small groups.
Yeah, and see what's going on, because you might get a lot of army people that are there. They might say, "Hey, what the hell are we doing?"
Well, that's what somebody said to me today. What about the Iranian army that's been trained to do this? Well, they're only trained because of those nutcases. So if they're gone,
Yeah, you would think that they would look at each other and say, "What are we
what are
doing?"
we
here?"
doing? They're killing their own people.
Yeah,
I also found out, along with them shooting all their protesters on the street, they went into the hospitals where people were injured and they got rid of them too. But they also beat up nurses that were taking care of these patients.
Oh my God. Well, I think they killed people in the
Yeah.
hospital and everything. Oh
Nuts.
my God.
Nuts. So let's pray.
I heard a little interview, and I'll go through this quick. I know you want to get.
No, that's okay.
There was a guy that was on the radio. I think it was on WABC today. It was actually not today. It was the day before, and he was talking about we should get out now. And the reason why he said that is because after we bombed in June, the nuclear, he said, "Did you notice that that's when all the protesters came out?"
Oh, yeah.
He says, "So maybe we should stop, call it a day. Hey, we bombed everything. We took out all their missiles.
And
we
let
took all
them come out again.
and then come back, take the ships away, and then the protesters might come out."
Maybe they're not out because they're afraid they're going to get hit in the head with a bomb.
It could be. But it kind of made sense. I was thinking about it. I said, that might make sense. He
Yeah.
was saying that he thinks that's what Trump should do, and Netanyahu. All of a sudden back off
Yep.
Everything is blown away.
Let the dust settle.
Let the dust settle, and then let's see what because there's no leader now. There's this guy with one leg. They think he's alive. He doesn't know if he's alive or what's going on, and the people might let's go out and let's
try it.
Let's try it. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, God with them, and hopefully that does work out. And this thing comes to an end, and gas goes down as fast as it went up.
Oh,
I hope I'm sitting at the diner and I see it
my
go down
God.
$3, $2.99, $2.98. Well, I got something very interesting.
We're becoming the Inquirer,
Yes, the National Star.
National Star. We are
Yes,
TMZ. Is that what that's
TMZ.
called?
Yeah. So apparently, Melania Trump is pregnant with an alien baby. No, just kidding. So apparently, though, we found out Melania Trump spends quite a bit of time away from Mr. Trump. She's got an apartment. Actually, they thought I got to hear that she's got a separate apartment in Trump Tower that she stays at a lot. In fact, in the first 108 days that the president was in his term, she stayed at the White House only 14 times. So they're not sleeping or being together at night. She's doing her own thing. And her actual address is registered to Mar-a-Lago, not the White House. Now, in the past, you had the president and the first lady, they lived in the White House. That's the way it was. And I know Michelle Obama didn't really like that. I remember on her podcast, she mentioned a few times that she hated living there, but she did. I mean, that's her husband. So at the time, you spend the 8 years there, and that's what you do. So, but she's got a real low profile, and she's vanished for weeks at a time. And the only time she shows up is when there's like a public, a funeral or a public thing where she's got to show up with him. And, when she's standing next to him, it raises his whole look, of course, because she's so majestic and so she officially changed, like I said, her permanent address in Mar-a-Lago. But there are reports that she spent significant time in the New York Trump Tower, possibly in a separate apartment, and leads largely a separate life from her husband, with minimum daily interaction beyond public events. Some sources describe the arrangement as living separate lives, with her focusing on personal interest. And we know she did that movie or a documentary recently, right?
Yeah.
So,
And they at the Oscars they said something. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel said something like, "I hope Trump's not mad that the Melania didn't make it, didn't get anything. He's going to be all mad." But he doesn't understand. The movie came out in January, so it won't be up until next year's Oscars.
right, it missed the deadline for
missed the
votes. Yeah,
deadline.
well, he's not going to say that, And we know it's not come on, probably not an Oscar winner.
No.
You know.
Well, I've heard.
What are they
good
going to do?
things
They're going to
about
give her. They're going to give her a supporting actress and actress. All the awards go to Melania. So I don't know. We didn't see the documentary. I do want to watch it.
But I would love to know, and I'm only saying this because my wife was, and if you ever saw the Crown on Netflix, I don't think it's a regular thing that the wife and the president and his wife sleep together. I think they actually have their own bedrooms in the White House. Well, actually, I don't even think that the president stays at the White House. I think there's a building next to it or across the street is really where he sleeps.
That's a good question, guys. Look it up. I don't
and
know.
also the first lady, I think she's got her own bedroom or something.
Well, that could be
Because like I looked at I mean, I'm only going by this stupid show, but they don't sleep together. The king and the queen, they don't bother with.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe I can understand that, especially if he snores. She probably wants a separate room. I know I enjoy sleeping on the couch once in a while, but I know that Obama and like I said, Michelle, she was at the White House. Now maybe they use separate rooms, true, but
That's why
she's
I
4,000.
think that's what happened.
She's 2,000 miles away all the time in New York. Yeah. So who knows?
Well, I mean,
Right, yeah.
you're talking about a guy that's a billionaire. He's got places all over the place.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, he's got Trump Tower. He's got Mar-a-Lago.
Oh yeah.
And then he's got a bunch of golf courses with rooms. I mean, the one in
Bedminster.
Bedminster
Jersey.
right there.
Yeah.
They say that's a freaking resort by itself.
know.
Forget about the golf course.
I know.
You
I
know,
heard that.
I had a lot of customers that belonged to it and said it's beautiful.
Yeah. So anyway, That's the story between Mr. and Mrs. Trump. So here's an interesting story, Mr. Bill. A woman called Kouri Richins.
From Utah.
Yeah, from Utah, Utah mother and author. Now, how she became an author is quite interesting. She lost her husband, and they had 3 kids, I believe.
Right.
And, you know, it's tough for any family. You lose a father, you lose a mother, especially for the kids, to deal with the death of a parent. It's really tough. Even at our age, when we lost our father and mother, even though we were older, it's a tough thing. It really is. I was thinking about my dad the other day because GM announced Buick might be coming out with a new sedan, and he was a big Buick guy. And my father-in-law was the same way. You know, they had the Riviera and the Buick Regals and all that stuff. So this mother took it upon herself to write books to help children cope with losing a parent, which is just a fantastic thing
Oh, sure.
if you think about
It
it.
is, yeah.
And she did media interviews, you know, and trying to provide comfort and reassurance that, you know, the loved ones are still present. They're in the air. They're still with you. However, Eric Richins, he died suddenly in March 2022 at their home.
In Utah. Yep.
Yeah.
Prosecutors allege she poisoned him by lacing a cocktail, a Moscow Mule, with a lethal dose of fentanyl.
Yeah, she killed him. She killed him, and now she's writing a book.
5 times the fatal amount. Holy heck.
Do you believe that? So here's a woman that everybody's praising because she's writing these books to help children cope, and she's the one that killed her husband.
Right. Motivated by financial gain, life insurance, estates, issues, and
Now, supposedly,
wanting to get a fresh start in life, she
yeah,
says.
well, that's way to go. Now she's
But here's the kicker. I mean, it's unbelievable. She had reportedly tried to poison him earlier, laced a sandwich in Valentine's Day, and made changes to insurance policies beforehand.
yeah. Now, how they didn't catch her then?
Yeah,
But I guess now this happened way back. Oh, I don't. In 1990, in 2023, this is when this originally happened, where she was making all this money in the books and the whole thing, and this just opened up because they arrested her this year. Her trial begins in early 2026 in Park City.
Yeah, she's facing. Look at this, including she's facing charges including aggravated murder, attempted murder, forgery, mortgage fraud, insurance fraud, and more. She has pleaded not guilty.
Oh, they got to have some
Her
evidence.
trial is going to begin in early 2026 in Park City, with prosecutors highlighting the book as part of an alleged effort to craft a narrative of genuine grief
Wow,
while covering up the crime.
that is way crazy. So when I read this, I said, I got to talk about this because this is you talk about
It is crazy,
murder
man.
mystery.
Yeah.
This could be a TV show, you know. So
Yeah, it does sound like something that you'll see on HBO or something.
or something. Yeah, and at the end you find out she killed him. So the book is about, you know, general grief, loss of father, not specifically about coding or programming with kids. It's just it's just hard to believe. The case has received widespread media coverage due to a striking contrast between the book's theme and what she was arrested for. I'm not laughing. It's not funny.
No, it's not fun.
But here's a mom. Oh, you know, I'm writing a book. I'm going to help all these children. She's the one that killed them. That just boggles my mind. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So trial's ongoing, and you know, and it's ongoing still as of March 2026. So that's still going on. Everybody remember the fraud in Minnesota?
Yeah. Oh, from that podcaster Nick Shirley.
Yeah.
That discovered all this stuff.
Knocking on doors. I want to put my kid in. His name is Joey. Nobody's around.
Nobody's
No
around.
kids. No nothing.
Kids, no nothing.
All these places. There were 2 or 3 child care centers in one building. You know, no kids. Vans that were supposed to be transportation. That were,
Didn't they spell something wrong on the sign of the place?
yeah, yeah. It was the Leaning Center,
Yeah, right.
not the Learning Center.
Right.
The Leaning Center.
Yeah.
And they said, well, the printer made a mistake, but they left it up there for 3 years.
Right.
So there's more to this stuff. He was out again today, and
He goes all over.
yeah,
I saw.
I forget where he was today, but he was going to hotel rooms where they had a business sign on the door. More fraud. So my point is, the reason I'm bringing this back up again, there was approximately $77.2 million in fraud. The defendant was Abidafata Yusuf.
Yusuf.
A Somalian American man.
Yep.
So we know the Somalis were involved in a lot of this stuff. So in August 2025, the jury found Yusuf guilty on 6 counts of aiding and abetting theft by swindling over $35,000 related to a Medicaid fraud scheme. Now, remember what I said. He was found guilty,
By,
by
right,
his own peers.
by his own peers. 6 counts of aiding and abetting. Yep.
Prosecutors allege that while operating a home-based health care business called Promise, over $7 million was stolen from Minnesota's Medicaid program, with funds used for lavish lifestyle, including transferring over $1 million to personal accounts and withdrawing large amounts of cash. Convicted. So what happens?
However, mid-November 2025, in the county, Judge Sarah West granted a defense motion on and overturned the conviction.
Threw it out.
Threw it out. She issued a judgment of acquittal, ruling that the prosecution's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and did not sufficiently rule out other reasonable explanations.
Now, come on. They got bank records, and just transferring that kind of money into personal accounts alone is a crime.
Well, such as Yusuf's brothers managing the company and committing the fraud without Yusuf's knowledge.
There you go.
This decision was described as highly unusual, especially in white-collar cases, and drew significant criticisms from jurors, lawmakers, including Republican Senator Michael Holstrom, and media outlets like New York Post and Fox News.
Yeah.
I mean, I just can't believe it. I really can't believe it. If it was the other way around, I'd love to know if this judge is a left-leaning judge.
Yeah, me too.
But if it was the other way around, and it was something that a Republican city, not a blue city, a Republican city, a red city, they would be all over the place. It'd be, they have to get all the Republicans out, fire them. They're all this.
What if one of Trump's kids was involved in something here in fraud, right? He'd be behind bars already.
Some reports and social media posts refer to as Somali fraud case due to Yusuf's background and has sparked backlash amid broader decisions of fraud cases in Minnesota's Somali community. Example, separate large-scale scandals like Feeding Our Future.
Yep.
Prosecutors could potentially appeal, but the conviction was thrown out at the trial court level.
Yeah, so when you do that, there's nothing to appeal.
Yeah.
He overrode what the jury said and the evidence and everything. So this is where it comes back to, and you see comments on TikTok and different outlets there. Nobody's going to jail.
Right.
Nobody's going to get hurt.
Well, it's funny. A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about, like, what happened with the Biden and the auto pen?
Yeah.
Nobody's even looking at it.
Yeah.
Nobody's even doing anything about it. And maybe they are behind the scenes and we don't know.
Well,
I don't
that's
know.
true, because now we're talking about the war all the time.
Yeah, but you had that. What's happening with Clinton's, Hillary and
Yeah.
Bill Clinton? Yeah, they were asked at the hearings.
Disposition, yeah.
Is anything going to happen to them? Nothing's going to happen to them.
No.
That's what Vinny at PBD talks about. He says nothing happens to these people.
Nothing.
There's probably a lot more people in the Epstein files that they found out
Right.
that nothing's going to happen.
No.
Yeah, let them go.
They get away with
I
it.
don't care. Who cares?
Okay. Nobody cares.
But the average man, if he was caught up in something like that, we would probably
Yeah. We'd be in prison.
be in.
You almost went to prison for
I almost
doing
went
nothing.
to prison.
You know.
Me,
I did nothing for a speeding ticket.
I
I got news.
hold up my sign
Yeah.
this way.
A long time ago, I was at the Jersey Shore, and I only found out about this because I got a letter in the mail from the sheriff that was a warrant for my arrest for a parking ticket in Point Pleasant, New Jersey.
Yeah.
A warrant. I'm like, really? Here these guys are stealing $3 million and they can't even get them in prison. What the hell? So anyway, all right. In closing, I do want to mention one thing. There's a little YouTube plug. They have surpassed, of all the video services, Hulu, HBO, Netflix, Amazon Video, of the most watched hours than all those things, all those
I
different
mean, YouTube.
streaming.
does.
YouTube.
Oh, I know. Oh,
People put it on now. Let it play.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've said this for the last year. regular TV,
Mm-hmm.
NBC, CBS, ABC, even the cable news companies, CNN,
Right.
MSLSD, whatever it's called. I don't know what it's called.
MS
And then
Now.
Fox News. Fox News is still up there doing a lot and getting a lot of views. But all those other ones, they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching anything. Look at the Oscars. Last year, I think the Oscars drew 18 million views. This year, I think it was 14 or 15 million views. It's going down and down and down.
Well, yeah, and because it becomes political anyway.
Yeah, and it's so right. Years ago, when you watched it, I was excited to
fun.
watch the
I know.
Oscars
Yeah.
years ago, 20, 30 years ago. It was great to watch.
Yep.
Now it's just nothing but bashing. That's why I can't stand Bruce Springsteen anymore. I love the guy. I think the guy does great music.
He wrote a
I don't
song.
want to go to a concert where he's got to sit there and he's got to talk about how bad the USA is, how bad Trump is, how bad this is. We got to stand up to this. Just play your music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so ridiculous.
That's
I
what we're
can't
there for.
stand it.
Yeah.
Just like a couple that one guy, Free Palestine at the Oscars. He played in F1. He was the manager of the team.
Oh, yeah.
I like him. He's a great actor.
He's got to open
Yeah.
his mouth. Well,
But he's
I
gotta open
watched
his
the
mouth.
beginning with Conan's opening monologue, and I got all the way to the point where he said that unfortunately this year there's no British actors that are nominated for any movies, but they at least arrest their pedophiles. Now, why would he have to say that?
Right. Well, now,
Not directed directly to Trump. It was
no,
just
but it could be Clinton.
the Epstein thing. Could be Clinton. It could be whoever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you know,
why
right
does he
away,
have to
bam.
say that? Right.
So I turned it off at that point and haven't watched it since. So anyway, so YouTube,
Well,
great job. By the
Nobody's seen any of the movies.
Right.
You ask somebody, I don't know, because first of all, they don't know where to see it. They don't know if they have to see it on Netflix,
that's
or
true.
Hulu,
Yeah.
HBO. It's like where do you see it at? There's so many damn streaming services. Nobody's going to the theaters anymore.
Right.
I mean, it's
Well, and to show you, like CNN, they're going to get bought by Paramount Plus, which
Right.
is a streaming service in its own. So.
yeah.
But I did want to mention again with YouTube, people put it on, long form content like us, and they let it play or they listen to what we're talking about. You know, we're growing.
Well,
and
everybody's
the long
going
form
to it.
content.
Really
It's
is.
it's TV now. It is.
It
what
is
it
TV. When I
This may not be your favorite show, but it's
right,
still.
but no, but it's true. I mean, I have Apple TV. I turn on the TV. The first thing I go to, I got two apps up there: YouTube TV and YouTube. And I'm telling you, a lot of times I go straight to YouTube.
Yep. So that's what's going on, and so we have some long form content. You guys know already. I break it up a little bit into a few other stories, but I really appreciate everything you guys do for us. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. I don't have my cowbell with me,
Yeah, it doesn't.
but like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. We're growing and growing and growing. We're over
St.
7,000.
Patty's Day. I got my tie. He doesn't. I do.
No
He
green,
doesn't.
baby. No green. I did have broccoli for dinner though. In my
Oh, really?
in my
Oh, God.
in my pasta, in a white wine sauce. Broccoli.
Well, I had penne with that white wine sauce,
That's right.
and I didn't have the broccoli, but I did have parsley in there, so it was green.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And you got cheese on your green tie. So
That's
you're,
right.
you're
Yeah, I got a little cheese there. What the heck?
So thank you again for joining us this week. I really appreciate it. And we're getting better and better. This is our new studio. We got some new lighting. We're trying to make it better and better.
Yeah, we're experimenting with the lighting here. We're trying to get it the right way.
I think
And
it looks great. I mean, if you look at it that way. And all right. So that's all I got. I'm Joe, right?
I'm Bill.
And you're
Very
Bill.
good.
All right.
We'll see you next
Have a
week.
good night. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.